Hello and welcome along to episode 29 of the Tennis Asia podcast. And it is that time of year again. Wimbledon is just a matter of, I guess, hours, less than a couple of days away. Qualifying is done. The draw was made a little while ago. And here to guide us through all things Wimbledon from a Tennis Asia perspective is Mr. Tennis Asia himself, Eddie McGee. Eddie, how are you? Like a boy on Christmas Eve, I'm sure.
Yes, well, it's been a pretty intense period of tennis, even though we haven't made an episode since, before the French Open, wasn't it? But,
It was,
I have been keeping busy with all the tennis that's been on. And, it's been a pretty interesting grass season so far. And, so a lot to look forward to this Wimbledon. And, it's just it's mad how quickly we get here after the French Open, really.
Yeah, that's also called getting old. I mean, it used to feel like a long time between the French Open, and just goes by in a blink of an eye now. As I said, the draw has been made already. Wimbledon is super efficient. Qualifying is all done before the draw. The draw just comes out bang like that. It is Friday evening here in East Asia. I'll be honest. I know you were on, I think, the Talking Tennis stream while the draw was being made. So I think you've seen a little bit more of this draw than I have. We'll go through, as we always do with the slams, we'll go through the draw in order. We'll stop off at matches that interest us. There's going to be a couple, but we will start with the ladies' singles first. This is Wimbledon, so we call it the ladies' singles and the gentlemen's singles, of course. Just a word on qualifiers. We don't have to worry about all the so-and-so might be playing a qualifier because we already know who the qualifiers are and where they're going in the draw. We had a couple of ladies make it through the qualifiers from Asia. Zheng Qinwen, who beat Lanlana Tararudi, I think, in the final round. And also...
Yeah, she was the only one, by the way. She was
the only one who made it through. That's right. I made another note about an honorary Asia member who we'll come to a little bit later on.
Okay.
Let's turn to the ladies singles draw. Obviously, a couple of big names from this part of the world in it. Let's get to it.
Yeah. So, just looking at that there, that is the top section. Obviously, no Asian players there, but it is, obviously Sabalenka who dominates that section as the number one seed, although she could face Lulu Sun, who was a quarter finalist, right, last year.
Got to say, actually, a shout out Texas A&M's Carson Branstein, who is playing Sabalenka in the first round.
Yeah, qualifier there.
Yeah, and who beat Boisson as well in the qualifiers.
Right. And we've also got Marketa Vondrousova here. So that is obviously one of the more exciting non-seeded players. So, it's an interesting little section in terms of that. I mean, there's a qualifier there for Fruhvirtova from Czechia. Coming through. But you would have to say that still it's not a bad section there for Sabalenka and one that you would expect her to get through. But clearly, I think probably, normally I would say Raducanu, she might have in the past, you'd expect her maybe to get a run on the grass. I'm not sure about the way she is at the moment. Vondrousova, she just came through and won Berlin, and she beat Wang Xinyu in that final. Wang having a great run there as well. But of course, Vondrousova is the Wimbledon champion back in 2023. So yes, that's potential for her to, maybe get through this section. But obviously, Sabalenka is the one to beat. Moving down, if to the next portion here. So, you can see that we've got there's Anne Lee and then Grasheva, but Dosan Bolter stands out there. But in terms of the Asian players, I think we have to make our way down the draw quite far. But there is Zhang Shuai,
to the qualifier. Yeah,
who is up against Danilovic. And yeah, it could have been worse for her. I mean, it's a tricky one to start off with, but I mean, I don't know. I think Zhang's done particularly well on Wimbledon the last several years, but maybe perhaps as a winnable one. But then if she does come through, then Madison Keys, is probably one of the favourites for the title, with the way that she plays, the power that she brings, the serve, the big strokes, that are going to come through the court well on a grass court. And obviously, I think up with Sabalenka, she's one of the favourites probably for the title. Obviously, she had a great year winning the Australian Open and dipped a little bit after that, but perhaps Keys is be able to do something here. So not great for Zhang to have her as a possible player in the second round, but then if she does get through the first round, that wouldn't be too bad for her.
I think this time last week she would probably have settled for, if you could have offered it, being eliminated by Madison Keys in round 2 of the main draw. She would probably have accepted your offer. We've got a couple coming up. Eala is a fascinating one to see how her game actually adapts to the grass of Wimbledon.
Yeah, Ito, and it was one I was wondering, like, where is she? Did she have to qualify? No, she didn't have to play qualies because she was just, she made the cut to get in the main draw. But I noticed that she hadn't really played any matches. I don't know if she was physical issues or what, in terms of like the grass build-up tournaments. I mean, actually, to be honest, there's not many grass tournaments for the lower levels for them to prepare on the women's side. On the men's, they do have quite a few challengers, in England that are played. And, there's quite a lot of tournaments, but, unfortunately not the same on the women's side. And I do think, with the way she plays and the trickery that she brings, that perhaps she could, do some damage on the grass. And it's not too bad a first round draw for her with Rakimova there. But then having to go through and possibly play, previous finalist in Paolini, it's not ideal. But that could be, who knows, that could be an interesting little battle if they were to play, and obviously a good experience for her. So, I mean, yeah, it's going to be, I'm curious to see how she does on the grass. I mean, it might not be particularly good because her experience must be quite limited, beyond what she's, but I do think, she has a chance maybe to shine. So we'll have to look at that, but it's a bit of a shame. Yeah, as I said, obviously with those players, not having that much time to adjust to it. And the grass season's so short anyway. It's like, even for the good players, it's like you have hardly time to sort of build a good grounding on the surface before it's over. And so yeah, you get these kind of, and then obviously there's some players that do particularly do well on grass. I mean, we talk about Van Druzhova, right? She had a great run in Berlin because she beat Madison Keys, Jabeur, Sabalenka, and obviously Wang in the final, Schneider as well. So, but yeah, like, and this is true for the men and women. It's just like, there's not that much time in grass season, so you don't always. Which is why I always think maybe it would be good actually to have an extra, because they talked about having like a Masters or a 1,000 tournament maybe on grass, because they don't have that. And for me, it's more sort of, I would like it because, not just because it's a 1,000 tournament, but just to sort of extend the grass season a little bit, because I just feel like it just creates a bit more balance.
Just a question of who would host it, who's going to the expense of putting in those courts for something you can only use once a year. Moving around, it's a case of don't make me choose between Evalis and Yuan Yue. That's a really tough one.
Yeah, that's a good little first round matchup, isn't it? I mean,
yeah.
Well, I guess it depends how, depends how Yuan's feeling. But yeah, I think she does have stylistically she can do well on this surface, and Eva Lee certainly is able to do that. Yeah, so it's going to be interesting in terms of how that's going to go, and it's certainly for like a first round matchup that features two unseeded players. You have to say that's a pretty good one that stands out. So, yeah, curious to see how that goes.
Court 9, most probably.
Yeah. Who knows what course could it be on? But yeah, that's obviously something we do know which days the tournaments will be on because the tournament starts off right with the first. The half that starts off is the one that has the defending champion in it, right?
The defending champion, yeah.
And so on the women's side, that's Barbara Krejcikova, right? So,
the ladies defending champion will start off on Tuesday. The men's on.
Oh, right, yeah. Right, okay. Thank you for correcting me there. Yeah, so that's yeah, and of course, we have an Asian player who's going to be playing her. We'll come on to her in a minute. But Putintseva, who has not been doing very well of late, has drawn a tough one in Amanda Anisimova,
right?
Who's also got quite a tough game. Anisimova for that can do well on the grass, and although Putintseva has not been doing well of late, Anisimova just got through to the final in at Queen's, right? The first Queen's final. Queen's event on the women's side since 1973. So yeah, and obviously she beat Zheng, who was doing pretty well. Beat Emma Navarro, but yeah. So from that point of view, you would think it's not going to be a good draw for Putintseva. But as I always think, it's like Putintseva, she has that she's been higher ranked and she does have that quality in her game. And I sometimes think when it comes down to the slams, if a player does have that ability still within them, maybe she hasn't been doing well recently, but maybe that takes the pressure off a little bit, playing a seed there. And, she could still make it competitive. So it's going to be interesting to see if she's able to bring that because, yeah. Obviously she hasn't had much of preparation. I mean, she lost to Sakari in Bad Homburg just there. She lost in the second round in Nottingham and lost in the opening round to Heather Watson at Queen's. So, yeah, doesn't look well on paper at the moment.
No.
She's been to the fourth round last year, though. That was her best result at Wimbledon. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. It's not necessarily her favorite surface, but as I say, let's see how it goes, and moving down
the machine, Mayuko Chijima. It's been an up and down year so far, and not necessarily easy here either.
Yeah, I'm not expecting too much. No. I mean, I'm expecting her to lose it. To be honest, because I don't think her game really does match up with the grass so well. So yeah, certainly on clay, she got good results, and on the hard court she can absolutely play. But I think the way she sets up on her forehand, she needs to have a bit more time, and the grass is a completely different surface. So Diana Schneider, on the other hand, is she's a 12 seed, and yeah, she's also a player that is capable of doing well on this surface, and still only 21.
Right.
So she's still not done too much in her career yet, but already showing that she can beat big players. She's 12 seed here, and also, I mean, she's got doubles pedigree, so that's obviously going to help to some degree on the grass. So yeah, I'm not looking at anything really other than a Schneider win, unfortunately, for Ichijima there. But as we move down the draw,
very, very interesting part of the draw coming to. Obviously, Ostapenko against Kartal is a fantastic, fascinating one. Obviously, not necessarily in our purview, but it will be. And then right at the bottom of the first half, obviously we have the two interesting ties, which I think we'll have to go down one more to get right down to the bottom of it. Naomi Osaka against the qualifier Talia Gibson, and Zheng Qinwen against Siniakova. Now, we'll start on Zheng, because obviously she's the highest seeded only seeded from this part of the world, seeded in fifth. Obviously, it's been a less than ideal build-up, you'd have to say, for Zheng. I think did she have to pull out of Berlin last week? Obviously, hasn't played since.
Yeah, I mean,
so seeded, but you'd say she's a vulnerable seed.
Seeded, but she is a bar. I mean, well, to be honest, I was thinking actually she has good chance to finally do something this grass season, because I thought she did play well in Queens. Good victories after Kessler. She dominated Raducanu, who Raducanu herself is she has a game suited for the grass, but I thought she did really well there, and she had her moments and could have maybe beaten Anisimova, but she's obviously trying to do well on the grass, which is maybe not a surface that come too naturally to her. So I felt just obviously, I mean, I don't know how bad this situation. I'm guessing she's okay, right? Even though she pulled out of Berlin, but Siniakova is for a player that's not seeded, that's definitely one of the tougher ones she could have got, and I think. So Siniakova, she did play in Berlin, and she came through qualies and beat Tomova in the first round, and she gave Rybakina a good game. The second set was a tie break, and she also just played in Bad Homburg as well, and did qualify and got through. So she won 3 matches in a row there. So so. Obviously, doubles pedigree as well from her. I think she has maybe a bit more of the instincts to play well on this surface. But if Zheng is playing well, reasonably well, then I think she will get the victory. But it's definitely not ideal to start off. And I mean, for Zheng, it's just like, and on the grass more so. Obviously, getting her first serve percentage up. Obviously, get more free points in the serve, but also just like she has the weapons to absolutely, get that serve in and then hit the winner off the 1-2. So, like, I mean, I thought she was doing that pretty well in Queens and also returning really well. And so if she's able to carry that on, it potentially sets up a really interesting second round match, because she will, as you can see there, probably face Naomi Osaka, although of course we can't assume that Osaka will get through, but she's playing a qualifier, Gibson there. So that's obviously a massive prospect from a Tennis Asia point of view, but a lot of people will be interested in watching that match, and that potentially would get on center court, right? I mean, Zheng against Osaka. Obviously, Osaka's a huge name, and for Osaka maybe more so even than Zheng, she's struggled on the grass to get any results there.
But both of them should probably pretend that it's just a hard court that's been painted green. That might work out better for them.
Well, I mean, they have played before on grass. I think was it last year in. I think it might have been the tournament in the Netherlands, but or was it Stuttgart? I can't. Sorry. I can't remember. Sorry. But it was one of the grass court tournaments, and they was a 3-setter, I think, and Zhang won that one, and played a really tremendous game on serve. I mean, she hit a whole bunch of aces. So, yeah, if she's able to bring that, and you would still favor her again if they were to meet, because she's just been playing at a high level overall, right? But certainly it's an interesting one, and I mean, you'd have to say Zheng. I don't know how she does it, but she always seems to end up in Sabalenka's half, right? And obviously she is the one Asian player that really has maybe a serious opportunity to go far. Obviously, being grass, it seems obviously it's going to be more difficult, and you'd have to say maybe she could get to the quarters, but let's see. Obviously, she gets through there. Potential players that could be there is Ostapenko, but Ostapenko is like, you never know what you're going to get, right?
No.
So from that point of view, I mean, when I'm looking through the draw here, perhaps she could actually get to the quarterfinals, but then you've got, there's also Paulini, so Madison Keys. I mean, I think I would be surprised if she managed to get the quarterfinals. I think that's good going for her. So
that'd be par.
Yeah, and
fifth seed. Yep, that is par. Absolutely.
So moving on to the second half. Here we have the second half of the draw. You can see there Mira Andreeva, the number 7 seed at the top. So Mira Andreeva's there. She's probably going to, fancy her chances of doing well here. I don't think it's a particularly tough draw in terms of but she hasn't had some good results on the grass so far, so she maybe needs that. But looking down the draw, as you can see there in the next section, we have Barbara Krejcikova, 17 seed, who last year's champion, up against, of course, the Philippines' own, sole real representative, right, on the WTA side. It's Alex Eala, and she is doing. Go on.
It's been a sort of mixed build-up, hasn't it, for her? I mean, she was sort of up in the quarters in, I think, Ilkley, the 125, but first round in Nottingham. But this week, Eastbourne, I know you just come out of watching her match. Tell us about Eastbourne this week.
Well, yeah. So, she's done really well. She's into the semi-finals. The final. Just won the semi-final today in Eastbourne. Really good victory for her. But obviously, she after that Miami run, we went into clay season, and struggled there because it was understandably clay's not particularly her surface, and lost to Linda Fruhvirtova in Birmingham, but then came through and has won a lot of matches actually on grass. I mean, obviously she got to quarterfinals in Ilkley, and then she qualified in Nottingham, but she won 2 matches to do that, and then obviously qualified here, to come from qualies and then make it all the way to the final in Eastbourne. So she's obviously feeling comfortable in the grass, and that's how she looks. I mean, it's not that surprising in terms of she does prefer these quicker surfaces, also on hard courts, but the way that she takes the ball early, and her intensity, she just seems to be meeting the ball well on this surface, her timing and everything, and just moving well, which is a big part of it. She just moves very naturally, and I'm just really impressed actually with watching her today. I mean, she obviously looks really fired up. I mean, starting off in the round of 16, she beat Ostapenko. She went down 6-love. I mean, Ostapenko was, how she can play lights out, returning. Obviously, Eala is vulnerable on because of her serve. She's not got a great serve, and Ostapenko was absolutely destroying it, and then hitting winners all over the court. But then I thought she did really well, Eala, to fight back, and 6-2, she won that second set, and she just sort of managed to work her way into the match. And I think with her style against a player like Ostapenko, who loves to go for the winners and play like big strokes flat, but I think she's the kind of player that would kind of annoy that kind of player, and that's what happened. And eventually Ostapenko retired in the third set. Eala was actually up a break on 3-2, but I think Ostapenko was a bit injured, but it probably wasn't that serious. But with one eye on Wimbledon, she retired, and obviously good for Eala to get through. And then she placed Yastremska in the quarterfinals. Yastremska also is a player that's got quite big strokes and hits quite a flat ball, and she was trying to go for it, but it was quite windy, and I definitely think that helped Eala. She dealt with it much better, just getting a lot of balls back, getting them deep, and drawing the errors from Yastremska. She made Yastremska hit a lot of errors, and 6-1, 6-2. But then obviously going through to the semi-final, she beat Varvara Grasheva 7-5, 2-6, 6-3. And that was a really hard fought victory because she was up, I think, a double break in the first set, and then Grasheva fought back at 5-all, and then Eala managed to dig deep and take that first set. But then her level dipped, and Grasheva fought back in that second set, and it did feel like Grasheva had the momentum maybe going into the final set. Really, particularly on 3-all in that final set, she had a long juice game with that I thought maybe Grasheva was going to maybe get the break, but no. I mean, I thought Eala just fought really well. Some of the best moments of the match came in that set. She was really going for her shots. I mean, I think on this surface, the backhand cross court, she hits through it quite flat, and that's very effective. And then she's going big, the forehand up the line. So was working really well for her. And when she started I was impressed because she wasn't sort of holding back in that final set and under pressure. So eventually she was able to hold on, and that got the break of the next game. And then it was a fairly simple final service game for her. And emotions ran high. She was very emotional at the end. She was broke down in tears in the interview, but understandable. She put a lot of effort in, and anyway, I've talked you through all of that. Well, just to say that she's obviously feeling good, in a good place right now.
Well, she's one match away from winning a title.
Yeah,
and then a couple of days off before kicking things off on centre court on Tuesday against the defending champion, which usually would be not an ideal draw. But I have to say, Barbara perhaps a little vulnerable here.
Well, that's it. And I think now as well that, Eala's had that sort of experience at this level, obviously having done really well in Miami, doing well in Eastbourne, and, she's had victories in, she played in Madrid in these big tournaments. So Krejcikova also had to give the walkover to Grasheva,
right?
Which, in Eastbourne. So we don't know what the extent of her injury. It might not be too bad, but obviously that's a bit of a concern for her. Not ideal, maybe. On the other hand, Eala has a lot of games under her belt coming from qualifying. So is she maybe going to be a little bit fatigued, not just physically, but mentally? Possibly, but at least she's got the final tomorrow. It's Saturday, right? So, and then she won't have to play until Tuesday. So that's not too bad, right? I suppose. But it takes a bit of time to adjust, right? That's also a huge thing for her to play on centre court. I mean, what an experience. And that's going to be just a huge thing. And you can only imagine, though, the hype. There's already a big hype for it in our home country if she managed to beat the defending champion in the first round. Yeah. But I think she does have a reasonable chance. So maybe it depends a bit on Krejcikova's condition, but she's certainly not going to be. Obviously she's going to be going into this feeling confident, so and just without too much pressure. So that's a good thing for her, and it's going to be a very interesting one.
Right. And obviously, in Emma Navarro is part of the draw, but Navarro has to actually come through Kvitova in the first round as well. So interesting part. Also, of course, the Chinese player Zhu has Kudermetova in the first round for the right to face Navarro or Kvitova.
Yeah, so that's obviously not like the best draw there for her, for Zhu Lin, but I'm more interested in looking at Karolina Muchova, who's playing.
Yeah.
There she is. Wang. Oops. So yeah, anyway, obviously Wang Xinyu, who is the player that just, she reached the final in Berlin. And, she hadn't had a particularly great season up until that point, but that was a great run for her. And tricky because I think she she was doing well and possibly could have won that first set. I mean, it went to a tiebreak. I think she was up a break as well in that first set against Vondrousova. Ended up losing in 3, but yeah, she has a, she's not a small player. She's 182 centimeters, which is almost 6 feet. So obviously big for a woman. And then, she's got power, quite big strokes, quite flat. She hits it, so it can be effective. Obviously, yeah, decent serve on this surface. Some great players she beat. I mean, she came through Jabeur and qualifying, beat Kasatkina, beat Goff. It was beat Badosa, but that was Badosa retiring, and then beat Samsonova. So, yeah, to draw though, a player like Muchova, who's an exceptional player on her day. Yeah, it's going to be difficult and not ideal. But then on the other hand, Muchova's probably thinking,
I don't really want to play her either.
Yeah, right.
So, and of course, it doesn't make any difference because they're all in the section of the draw which is known as Priscilla Hon's section of the draw.
Yeah, so Priscilla Hon, Australian though, she qualified by beating Victoria Mboko, and that was crazy because Mboko had in that first set, like it was a love 30, right? Love 40 on the Hon serve, and Hon managed to save all those match points and eventually take it to a tiebreak, and then turn it around and won 6-1 in that final set, which was really a huge turnaround. And she plays Alexandrova though, who is pretty good and can play well on this surface. So who knows? But probably Alexandrova still manages to come through, but let's see. And then we've got Eva Jovic there as well, the youngster. A lot of talent. So it's an interesting little section. As we move down the draw, though, do we have any more Asian players?
I think that wraps it up, actually.
Oh, no, we've got, of course, how could I forget?
Oh, yes,
Elena Rybakina of Kazakhstan, of course. She actually is probably one of, if not the favorite for the tournament, because I think she has a good half, right? So she avoids, Keys, Sabalenka, Zheng as well on the other half. So, I mean, obviously Pegula's there, but Świątek's in that, obviously here, but Świątek has, struggled on grass, right, to bring that level. So, yeah, that's sorry to get back to Rybakina. So she's there, plays against Evanesian and Sakkari and Blenkova. I mean, Sakkari is really not. She's fallen away quite a lot, and you see Maya Joint there drawn against Samsonov. Obviously, Maya Joint potentially going to make the final in Eastbourne. So yeah, Coco Gauff as well is the other big seed in that section. I mean, Goff is, another one that's not done particularly well on the grass. So I guess she's also, though, got not too bad a section, although Azarenka's waiting there in the second round. But I think for Goff, probably that's not too bad for her. I mean, so but that's definitely like something that she'll be, and we could get a meeting between Rybakina and Goff at some point. So yeah, I think if you look at how that's going to go, I mean, let's look at Rybakina, obviously Evanesian, Sakari and Blankova, and then potentially Clara Tauson. I mean, I don't think these are players that she should be particularly worried about.
Yeah.
And so you have to say she's got a great opportunity to make the final, Rybakina. Right. Just a question of where she's going to be able to actually bring it this time. Obviously, she got to the quarterfinal in Berlin, lost to Sabalenka, but Sabalenka's in the opposite half of the draw this time, and it's really just a sort of case of, with the style that she plays, the serve and the power, it's just so naturally made for grass that it's hard to see what players are going to be able to trouble her, really, before the final. Danielle Collins is there. Obviously, she's quite a tough unseeded player. So, yeah, I mean, potentially, Rybakina has a chance to go really far and perhaps even win the whole tournament. And, in terms of the Tennis Asia prospects, that's obviously the best chance that you would have of someone lifting the trophy. And then probably second after that is going to be in the other half, Zheng. But I mean, Zheng's probably going to want to have some sort of draw opening up for her in terms of like, either, because perhaps Sabalenka, if she could end up facing, I mean, we'll have to see. I mean, potentially before the final. Where is she? Madison Keys, right? So, I mean, that could, be good for Zheng because she's on way down the other side. So, in terms of thinking what would help Zheng get to the final, that would be maybe one, because obviously Sabalenka is not someone that she wants to face, but Madison Keys is definitely a player that has the ability, the power to take out Sabalenka. So. Who knows? I mean, stranger things have happened.
Certainly agree with you. Rybakina is currently the second favourite to win the whole tournament. So.
And Sabalenka's number one.
Sabalenka number one, yes. 11-2, the best price on Rybakina.
Who's third and fourth?
Third and fourth are Coco is third favourite at 6-1. Fourth favourite is Swiatek at 10-1, which I wouldn't be backing. Fifth is Andreeva at 11-1. Sixth is Vondrousova at 12-1.
Okay. There you go.
Zheng Qinwen is 22-1.
Yeah, she's probably going to need some luck in the draw for her to actually make it that far. But I mean, especially because Sabalenka's in that half of the draw. But yeah, you never know what's going to happen. Things can happen. Someone might get injured. Well, maybe we should move on to the gentleman's draw.
Yeah, let's move on to the men's side. As ever, when we go through these Grand Slam previews, it won't actually take as long, unfortunately, as the ladies one. A couple did come through qualifying. Mochizuki, I think, came through qualifying. He'll play his second Wimbledon. Zhikayev as well also came through qualies, and it will be, I believe, his first Slam main draw.
Yep, and both players that have games that are suited for the grass. I mean, Bebic Zhukayev from Kazakhstan, and yeah, he's a tall player. He's like 6'5" or something, 190 odd centimeters. So he is a good player on this surface. Obviously the serve and ability to finish off the points well with the winners. So yeah, he's got a natural game for this surface. Whereas Shintaro Mochizuki is quite short, but he plays a game, quick game, take the ball early, he's able to come into the net, and he's a former Wimbledon champion at juniors level, I should say. 2019, I think he was. He won it as a 17-year-old. He's now 21, 22, right? So obviously he's quite underpowered, but he has an opportunity. He's had a good challenger season on the grass. He's won a lot of matches. So it's going to be interesting to see how he does, though. But we'll move on to them a little bit later, because right now in front of us, we've got...
we don't have to go too far to find the first one.
Yeah, so Zheng there.
Welcome to London.
Zheng, Jason Zheng, right? So, yeah. He's from Taiwan. Alexander Vukic is the player that he's up against. That was once, a match. I mean, a match still you could see in the challengers, right? So, but Vukic definitely has a game much more suited to grass. I mean, for Zheng, most of his successes come on the clay, and Vukic just has a bit more power and a sort of flat hitting that's going to do well on this surface. So, I would still expect Vukic to get through, and even if Zheng was to get through, he's probably getting through to have the opportunity to get absolutely thumped by Jannik Sinner in the second round. You got to say that section for Sinner is wonderful. So even Chapeau, he's not what he was.
All those predictions about how Sinner in the first round he was going to get like early to late 90s Sampras, in the second round it would be 2008 Federer, all that, while Alcaraz drew a toddler who wandered in and a cloud formation or something. Didn't quite work out like that. But...
No, I mean the seeds down in this section. Well, Dimitrov, obviously great grass player, but I don't think he has it to trouble Sinner in his state at the moment. Nishioka is the player he will play. Obviously, Nishioka lefty, going to be tough for him. I don't really see Nishioka being able to get through this one, but he's a player that maybe can make things a little bit tricky for Dimitrov. But I probably expect Dimitrov to get through that. Maybe he might drop a set to Nishioka, but we'll see. And obviously Tommy Paul's the other seed there. Don't particularly expect him to be able to. Obviously, he opens against Johannes Mundy, British wildcard. Good start for him, and maybe he gets through. But is he going to be able to beat Sinner if he gets to the fourth round? I don't think so. Tommy Paul, Ben Shelton.
We have an interesting tie here. Buyin Xiaokete, who we kind of haven't mentioned much over the past few months.
Yeah,
he's got Brandon Nakashima. It's been a difficult few months, I think, for Boo.
Yeah,
what do you think coming in here?
Yeah, he's struggled for sure for a while now. I mean, I think it really he's most natural on the hard courts, but then we just had the clay, which he's not had many good results at all, and obviously that's going to weigh in your mind when you don't won many matches. And he's not had a good grass season either. I think did okay. I mean, I remember him last year or the year before he had okay results and performances on the grass. But opening against Brandon Nakashima, who's very, very much adept on the grass, likes to, his serve is decent, and then he can do well at the net, Nakashima. So he's a sort of got the all-court ability to sort of make it very difficult for Boo, I think, and who's a bit more one-dimensional and sort of as a baselining player. And I think very difficult, and it's hard to see anyone but Nakashima winning that match. And then obviously Alexander Shevchenko in the second round. He's up against Opelka, and I suppose that's obviously going to present difficulties if Opelka can just sort of serve bot his way to victory, which is possible.
Got to have a word for Basilashvili, who has come through qualifiers. It was winning that Seoul Challenger has really been the sort of kickstart to the reigniting his career. It got him into the Aussie Open qualies, which he got through, and he's into another Slam main draw.
Yeah, but he came through the qualifying, beat Coleman Wong in the second qualifying round. Coleman was actually up a break in that first set, ended up losing tight set in the end, and Coleman will be kicking himself. But yeah, Basilashvili, although he's playing Rossetti, and has been highly ranked in the past, but I don't think grass is particularly good for him. And Rossetti, of course, has done so well at Wimbledon. But I don't think Musetti will be troubled. If you look down here, got an very interesting section because we've got Jack Draper, the fourth seed. You could potentially play Marin Cilic in the second round, but I don't think Marin Cilic is getting on a bit. And I would imagine that Draper would have too much for him. And then Alexander Bublik, though, is the player, of course, of Kazakhstan, who has had a tremendous grass season, being one of the few people other than, I think the only player other than Alcaraz in like 40 matches, whatever it was, to beat Yannick Sinner. He did that in Halle. Obviously Sinner is coming off the back of that terrible loss for him, his point of view. I mean, in 5 sets to Alcaraz at the French Open, obviously it's going to be tough to get over that. But obviously, Bublik's game is made for grass. They're just the real aggressive, great serve. He's got, he can use the slice. He's got big weapons. So yeah, he just played lights out against Sinner, and eventually he took the title, his second Halle title as well. So he's been playing really well. He has to open though against Jaume Munar of Spain, and he is a player that actually, because Carlos Alcaraz won Queens, right, and he did really well to win that title. But the toughest match of that run was against Munar. I think their match was like over 3 hours long, wasn't it? So
that was the one where he wrote on the camera. It felt like we were playing on clay or something like that at the end.
Right. But so Munar, Munar was a player who did pretty well in Hong Kong, which was playing pretty quick on that big on the main court anyway. So he is a player that I think he could actually disrupt Bublik a bit. It's always a bit dangerous when you obviously coming off a big high, big victory in Halle, and then coming into Wimbledon where he's maybe expected a little bit to win right now, Bublik. Because in the months before this, obviously he made the quarterfinals as well, and I should mention in Roland Garros, which was crazy because he's not a clay court player, but he did really well. And he said that was his best moment of his career, beating Jack Draper, wasn't it, to make the quarters?
Right.
But yeah, coming into grass, he's got a really good opportunity to do well here. So, if Munar gets into the match, gets a set, it might get a bit tricky for Bublik, I think. But although I do still think he should come through. But yeah, it's all about him getting through to that third round and playing against Draper, and that should be a really interesting one if they do play. And Draper's going to want to get his revenge, obviously, for the Roland Garros match, and it's pressure as well for Draper because he hasn't had a big, Wimbledon run yet. He's done, U.S. Open semi-finals. He hasn't really, shown what he can do to the British home crowd, and they're obviously going to really want to do that. So perhaps Bublik gets there, he could actually get a win against Draper, and maybe he can go all the way to. Could he go to the final? He could go far, right?
Well,
and there, just below him, is Zhukayev, the other Kazakh player, and Zhukayev is actually, unlike a lot of the other Kazakhstan players, is actually born and grew up in Kazakhstan. But big for him because obviously his first first appearance in the main draw at any slam. And he plays Kaboli, 22nd seed, who I think, well, it's obviously tough to get a seeded player. I think Kaboli just played against it was Fernley, isn't it? He lost, and was it straight sets? Was it to Jacob Fernley? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, if you know, as I say, he's got the serve. If he can bring his game, maybe he could actually get through that one against Kaboli, and then in the second round he'll be playing Echeverry or Pennington Jones. I mentioned Fernley. I think Pennington Jones also isn't he? Is he one of the ones that's also at the TCU, the Texas Christian University?
Texas, possibly.
Seems all the Brits are getting sent there because it was Cam Norrie was there as well. Yeah. Yeah, obviously, just great for any player just to be able to make the main draw of a slam for the first time, and so obviously Menchik there as well. He'll be hoping to do well, but I'm doubtful of his grass chances. Other players there in the draw, Machach and Diminar, Muk Downing, Alex Mickelson, and of course Novak Djokovic, the 6th seed. I'd have to say, well, actually Evans perhaps could make it interesting for Djokovic, but otherwise than that, I'm not sure the other players there present much threat to him. Maybe last chance for Evans to do anything in his career. He did okay in Eastbourne. He got a good victory against Fritz, didn't he? But yeah, I mean, I think this section is all about Draper, Bublik, and Djokovic. So from a Tennis Asia perspective, of course, you know, Bublik's the one that really does have a chance to maybe do something. Yeah. Can he actually fulfill his potential? Because I think with Bublik, always in the past, you're thinking like, well, we don't know what he's going to bring, right? You know, he was like Kyrgios that way. He's got talent, but he never seemed like fully locked in and serious. And he's always said that he was not the kind of player that he'd want to, you know, push his body to the limit like some of these other guys do. He's always said like, you know, that's not, you know, I think he's professional enough, but you know, more than Kyrgios, right? But like, but you know, his run at the Roland Garros, which was, you know, he used to talk about clay and, you know, kind of jokingly that, you know, he can't wait to get off it and back onto the grass, right? So, you know, I think that he made all the quarterfinals, and then following it up with that run in Halle, it shows that he perhaps has turned the corner. So it'll be interesting to see as if he's able to bring it. He's got a really amazing game when he's on. So yeah, going to be very, very interesting. And I guess we need to move over to the second half of the draw then.
Second half, yeah. Bublik actually sixth in the betting market, behind Alcaraz, Sinner, Djokovic, Draper, and Zverev, who I probably wouldn't be betting on, but Bublik 6th in the market. Best price 50 to 1, but commonly 28 or 33 to 1.
Well, I mean, that's tells its own story, really. I mean,
the market's obviously so skewed towards Carlos and Yannick.
Yeah,
very short. Everybody else a long price.
Yeah, but even the fact that, I mean, I wasn't putting him down. Just even the fact that he's 6th there is pretty good. I mean, I agree with you as well with Zverev. I just find it difficult to believe that. I think it's more that, like, even if Zverev got to the final, he's probably going to be playing Sinner or Alcaraz, right? So it's like, well. Sorry, he would be playing Sinner probably because. Sorry, no, he's opposite half from him. Sorry, he'd be playing Alcaraz, so yeah, unlikely. And then I just think that Zverev, yeah, he doesn't really have the. Like, he just doesn't. He's like a player that likes to grind from deep behind the baseline, which is not really the way you need to play on grass, right? You've got to be able to.
You're not going to win 3 sets against the best in doing that.
No.
The very, and again, nothing to do with us from a Tennis Asia point of view, but the very first tie in the bottom half is quite an interesting one. Fritz against Mpeshi Perika.
Yeah, so Pesci Parikar, though, after he's initially broke onto the scene on the ATP Tour, was it last year? Yeah, he's he hasn't really sort of lived up to that. And yeah, he comes in here though as unseeded, right, and draws Fritz. Obviously, Fritz has done pretty well and has done well on the grass, but like, yeah, it's not ideal though, is it, for Fritz, right? And Pesci Parikar, he's still going to have a chance, I guess, with his the way that he serves. So yeah, it potentially could be a long one. It could be a 4 or 5 set, or possibly get 5 sets. But I still think Fritz would probably get through it.
Come through.
And then you've also there, if he does get through, Gabriel Diallo. So another big player that's on the up at the moment. So in terms of the unseeded players that he could face, that's tough there for Fritz.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was Diallo actually won the tournament in the Netherlands, her Toggenbosch, you know, he was the maiden ATP title for him, and beat some good players like Kashanov and Umber on the way, and Bergs in the final. So yeah, I mean, for Fritz, it's a few banana skins there, really. And yeah, I would be worried if I was him. Moving down though in these sections, so we can see Medvedev. Yeah, so I would say Medvedev, not too bad for him, I would think, considering potentially, you know, if Fritz does slip up, you know, Medvedev has a good opportunity to go far. Oh, Jordan Thompson though is there, and although of late he's not been so good, but a player that does play well on the grass. Yeah, and there we have
much he's here, and playing another qualifier.
Yeah, so not bad for him. Yeah, and obviously he comes in with a lot of matches under his belt on the grass. You know, which is obviously ideal, even though it's at challenger level, and of course, you know, at the qualifying. So he's going to be definitely match sharp on the surface, and he's naturally suited to it. Semi-finals in Ilkley, the final in Nottingham, but only lost to Cilic, and obviously coming through Per-Hugues Herbert, Alves, and then Dominic Stricker in that final qualifying match, which was in 4 sets. Of course, they play 5 sets in those final qualifying matches.
Right.
But yeah, not a bad first draw for to draw another qualifier is, you know, great from his. So he definitely has a chance. But if he does get through, he's going to probably play McDonald or Kashanov. And I mean, I guess depending on who he's playing, you know, probably Kashanov would just overpower him. But maybe, you know, McDonald would try and pull something off. So McDonald's okay on these surfaces. Hubert Hurkacz is perhaps a dangerous floater there as an unseeded player, but he's been pretty bad recently. So, you know, obviously, though, he was his former semi-finalist in Wimbledon, and obviously famously battered Federer in his last ever match, wasn't it? Was it the bagel?
Right.
Last match at Wimbledon. So yeah, that's yeah. But Berrettini's there. I'm not sure if he's fit, but obviously, if he is able to be okay physically, then he has an opportunity here. Zverev in that section. We've moved down. Rune against Nicholas Jarry. Tough. This has got to be the toughest little section in terms of, like, can you see that there? I mean, Rune and Jarry, Tien, Bashareddy, Fernley, Fonseca, Brooksby, Griefsby. I think these are all players that kind of could all beat each other. So that's a tough one. And yeah, for Rune as a seeded player, I think that's pretty difficult for him. Griegspor as a player, yeah, can do well on this surface. Brooksby's on the up. He just, in fact, Jensen Brooksby, he was playing in Eastbourne, right? And so he just beat Dan Evans to get through to semis.
Yeah, and he made the mistake of saying to Evans, "Well played" at the end of the game.
Yeah, what was that all
Well,
about? I mean,
not me.
obviously, it's just Fritz is just sorry. Dan Evans is always a bit of a sort of loser, but Brooksby. Sorry, that was through to the quarters, right? So, he's semi-finals. Is it semis? Yeah, semis. I made a mistake. Yeah, so semi-finals. He's into semis. He has to play Umber. So Umber, as a lucky loser as well, Brooksby. But that's obviously, Hugo Umber is great on the grass. So, but yeah, back to the draw. I don't think that's because Fernley maybe you favour Fonseca, but Fernley obviously he's got a game suited for grass, and then he's obviously going to be at home. So that's potentially a good one. And Tien and Bash already. Nicholas Jarry, big serve. He's got a game be able to do some damage, and obviously coming through qualies, he didn't drop a set. I don't think so. Yeah, interesting little section. And then down here we got Lehechka, Bautista Agut against Norrie. That sort of stands out. If we move down the draw, Andrei Rublev, Lloyd Harris is there with Zizou Bergs. These two guys, Rublev and Tsitsipas, I don't really fancy doing anything these days. And Ogiel seem as well, but so Alcaraz, look at that section. Plays Bonini in like his last tournament, and then you gotta say, if Alcaraz doesn't make the final, I mean something serious would have to have happened, But and yeah, it's just a question of who he's going to meet. Is it going to be Sinner? Is it going to be Bublik? Is it going to be Djokovic? That's basically it. And Draper, I suppose, as well. But in a way, it's hard to really see past another Sinner Alcaraz final. I don't know what you think.
Alcaraz final. Big two, indeed. Okay, so what are you going to be looking out for most over the next 2 weeks? Who are you most excited to watch, men's or women's? Are you going to say Draper and Raducanu in the mixed?
I suppose some people would say it's boring because they want to see other upsets, but it would be cool to see another Sinner and Alcaraz final, right? They really do seem like the big two at the moment. It's going to be interesting to see if Sinner can bounce back. I saw that there was actually interesting some drama because his fitness trainer and his physio have apparently left the team, which is odd just before Wimbledon. But I think they're going to make a proper announcement about that. So I don't know what's going on, but obviously Zhang and. I think that's going to be interesting to me is if she can actually put together a run here, because it's also just interesting to me in terms of, it's maybe not the most natural surfaces for her, but if she's able to sort of, learn and adapt, which is obviously going to be important in her career. And obviously Bublik on the men's side, it's going to be interesting. Can he actually, let's say, fulfill his potential, because he does have it on grass, but then of course he's in the same section as Draper, who I want to see, can he actually do something, because he probably should, like on paper, be able to be making the semis, right? He's the fourth, or well, he's sixth seed, or sorry, no, fourth seed, right?
Draper's fourth seed,
so it's a big pressure, though, isn't it, for a British player at Wimbledon?
Sure.
But
not quite. What's it? We've had a Henman Hill, Murray's Mount, Draper's. Don't know what that would be just yet, but
I was saying
always
earlier,
a lot of pressure
when we were on Talking Tennis going through the draw. One of the standout in the first run is Fernley against Fonseca, but I was hoping that there would be enough Brazilians make it into the stadium, because I feel like you got a Brit against, with the kind of vociferous support that he brings with all the Brazilians. It would be very un-Wimbledon, and I want to see it because his fans bring in much more of a sort of, you know, a football kind of crowd, right? But very rowdy, and it's just a question if they're able to get into Wimbledon. But I mean, you know, Wimbledon is the tournament that allows you to have that chance by if you just camp overnight and go in the queue, right?
Right.
So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see if it happens. A lot of Brazilians in London, as there are people from all over the place, right? So.
Okay, so not long to wait now. Eddie, thank you for the very, very detailed preview, and enjoy Wimbledon.
Right, cheers.